Good afternoon. My name is Donna Miesbach, and I'm a certified meditation instructor. And some of you I've had the pleasure of seeing before, speaking with you before, and I see a lot of new faces too. So this is very exciting. I'd just like to take a minute to go around the group and have you tell me your name and whether or not you've meditated or what practice you have used, just so that I have an idea of where you're coming from, and then I'll tell you where I'm coming from, okay? So let's start here.
I'm John, and I do a little bit of Qigong.
Okay, good for you.
Rod, and a little bit, but not daily.
Okay.
Sarah and Kim a little bit. Not really.
Okay.
Taryn and same as them, just a little bit.
Okay.
Maggie, and just what I've done here, and then I pray.
Okay.
Maureen, I pray and I try to meditate, but I fall asleep.
That's one of the things that can happen.
I'm Tony, and I don't meditate.
I'm Kelly. I used to play a lot of sports, and we used to do a lot of pre-game meditation.
Oh, good, good.
I'm Simon. I dabble with things here and there.
All right, dabble is good. Good, all right. Well, that helped me a lot. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was first introduced to meditation when I was 17, and I knew right away that it was going to be an important part of my life because I really wanted to reconnect with my soul. So for years and years and years, I was looking for a way to do that, which meant that I was trying many different ways. I would read books, and I would go to classes, and I would attend workshops. And I found out that all these methods are valid, but they all have a different purpose. And none of them fulfill the purpose that I was seeking to fulfill until I came across primordial sound meditation, which is what I teach now. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. There are basically two ways to pray. One is when we're talking to God, and we almost all of us do that, don't we? And the other is when we listen. And when we listen, then we're meditating. So listening, being still, and seeing what God has to say to us is a way to meditate. You may be at some time exposed to a visualization. Maybe you've heard of visualization or guided meditations. There are walking meditations. There are many different forms of meditation. Just know that they all are a valid practice. What you need to do when the time comes that you really want to meditate is to find the practice that suits you, that fulfills the purpose that you're seeking to meet. What I teach allows us to go beyond the busyness of the mind into the silence of the soul. And that's an amazing experience, because when you touch upon your soul, you will find that there's no stress there, that there's no fear, that there's peace. And it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. And you'll bring the memory of that experience back with you. And when you do that, it would be a lot like putting a drop of ink in a bowl of water. If I did that, we wouldn't see much difference in the color of the water. But if I did that twice a day, or if I did that every day, after a while you would begin to see a difference in the color of the water. And that's what happens when you do primordial sound meditation, and probably with the others too, but they don't go as deep as ours does. It colors how you see things. Instead of coloring water, you're coloring your awareness. And you begin to approach things from a more peaceful level. You're beginning to remember that part of you that isn't so easily upset, that isn't so easily disturbed, and you have that resource to turn to draw from. Regardless of what it is that you're meeting out here, there's a place inside you where you can be very peaceful and undisturbed. These other forms that we talked about, like the guided meditation and the visualization and concentration, walking meditations, keep your attention at a horizontal level so that you're moving this way, which is the way the mind moves. But when we do primordial sound meditation, and I'll talk about what that means in a minute, when we do that, it becomes a vertical movement. It becomes a movement into the silence of the soul beyond the busyness of the mind. Because while we know that the mind has no boundaries, just for the sake of illustration, we're going to say that this is the mind. All right, so if this is the mind, here we are with all of our thoughts. All right? And you'll notice that it's up toward the top of the mind. We actually only use about 5% of the mind. Having problems. We'll keep going till we find one that works. Ah. Okay, I'll bet you can see that. So we only use about 5% of our mind. So there's a lot more potential there that we can explore. But when we do primordial sound meditation, we actually start relaxing and moving beyond all that busyness and gradually moving down until we go beyond the mind and move into the absolute silence of the soul. Now, what I teach is a mantra-based form of meditation. Let's talk about the word mantra for a minute. Mantra is a Sanskrit word. Can anyone tell me, does anyone know anything about Sanskrit? Have you heard of Sanskrit? Sanskrit is the oldest known language on the planet. And it was cognized. It was actually cognized by the ancient rishis, and a rishi would be a sage. And what happened, they were able to hear when they were meditating in the pristine silence of the caves over in the Himalayas. In this deep state of meditation, they could actually hear the sounds that the cosmos was making. And they brought those sounds into the range of human language, and that has become Sanskrit. So when we use Sanskrit, we are actually using the sounds of the cosmos. And that's very special, as we'll find out in a minute. So a mantra, let's define what a mantra is. In Sanskrit, mantra, man stands for mind, and tra stands for instrument, and I'm just going to abbreviate there. So a mantra is an instrument that we use to move beyond the busyness of the mind into the silence of the soul. And what happens when we do that, also I should say that a mantra is used, it would be a word or words that are used for the effect of its sound or vibration. And we hear mantras all the time. There are secular mantras and there are sacred mantras. We have a very popular mantra here in Nebraska, and we hear a lot of it in the fall when the football team gets going. What would that be? Go Big Red. Absolutely. We use that to achieve a certain effect, don't we? It means something to us. It does something to us. There are sacred mantras also, many of them from the scriptures. The 23rd Psalm, the Lord's Prayer, affirmations. If anyone's ever worked with affirmations, those would be mantras. But there's a difference between those mantras and our mantras, because our mantras are in Sanskrit. They are based on the universal or cosmic sounds of the universe. And in our mantra is contained the sound that the universe was making at the time that you were born. So this is your natural vibration. It's the sound that's most soothing to your physiology. It's most soothing to your mind. And when you start to think your mantra quietly in the silence of your little worship space, wherever, whether it's your chair or if you're sitting on the floor, wherever you're going to be doing your meditation, when you start thinking that mantra, your physiology hears that and your spirit hears that, and it goes, oh yeah, I remember that. That feels so good. And you relax a little bit. And when you do, you settle down a little bit below the busyness of the mind. Now what happens then after you've relaxed, that sometimes will release a little stress. And when we release stress, there's usually a physiological response. Sometimes that response would be in the form of a thought. And your thought might be, I mustn't forget to get potatoes when I go to the store tomorrow. So at that point, you have a choice. You can either continue working on your grocery list, which would be daydreaming, or you can go back to your mantra and start thinking the mantra. And if you choose to go back to your mantra, progressively you're going to move deeper and deeper into a more relaxed state, until eventually you just slip beyond the mantra and you slip beyond all the thoughts, and you're just in this state of pure awareness. Pure awareness. And that's what meditation is all about, is moving beyond all the chaos into the peace of the soul. Now I hope, as we go along with this, that if you have any questions, that you'll please let me know. Yes?
So how do you know what your mantra is?
We teach it to you. Right, and that's a very good question, because we have to use Vedic mathematics to determine what it is. It's based on the sound that the universe was making at the time and the place where you were born. Okay? And so we get that information from you. And then I send it in to the Chopra Center. Have any of you heard of Dr. Deepak Chopra? Good, good, all right. Well, this is his practice that he brought over here to us from India. Actually, he is an endocrinologist. Let's just talk about Deepak for a little bit, because he's an endocrinologist. And as you already know, that has to do with the interface between mind and body, which just made a natural springboard for him to move into this work, of the work of spirituality. As he was working with his patients, and he was highly renowned for his work, he became very dissatisfied because he could see that all they were doing really was putting Band-Aids on the problem instead of getting to the root of the problem. And so while he was doing this, he would come up with ideas for programs that he could start for people with cancer, for people with diabetes, people with serious health problems. But he knew for these programs to be truly effective, he would have to have meditation at the core of the program, because that's where you remember your essential state of wholeness. When you move into the silence of the soul, that is where you are whole and where you are never sick. Okay? The soul is never sick. The body may get sick, but the soul is never sick. So he started doing some research, and he had people here and also in India doing some research. And one day he got a telephone call, and they said, you need to come and see what we have found. And what they had found were these sounds that the rishis had recorded, that they had written down. And the story to that is that when the rishis found these sounds, they listened to them, and they noticed that they changed every 3 to 4 hours. And they wondered what the significance of that was. They found out as they followed these sounds that after a while, that cycle of sounds started recurring. It started repeating. And the reason for that was it was following the cycle of the moon. They felt this had great significance, and they wanted to know how they could use these sounds. So they started working with them and meditating on these sounds, and they each one found that there was one specific sound that enabled them to go into an even deeper state of meditation. And of course, being spiritual scientists, extremely intelligent people, they wanted to know why this was. And as they started researching that and working with it, that's when they determined that was the sound the universe was making at the time that I was born. So they have that all recorded in the ancient scriptures. And the ancient scriptures are called the Vedas. Okay? So that information was there. And of course, as soon as Deepak found out about that, he knew that was what he was looking for. I've never asked him, but it's my personal opinion that that's one of the reasons that he came into this existence, was to restore this to the people. Because there are many people in India who still use this practice. But there are a lot of other people in this world who need to know about it. And so he's made that available to us. And once he started teaching it, so many people wanted to learn about it. He couldn't possibly teach everyone himself. Plus, there were a lot of people who wanted to learn about it who couldn't go where he was. And so he developed a teacher certification program. And that's what I did. When I found out the difference that this had made for me, I was so grateful that I wanted to be able to share it with other people. So I went back to school, so to speak. We call it Chopra University. It isn't really a university, but at the Chopra Center there are many, many courses that you can take, and a lot of them are prerequisites to being able to be certified to teach this course. But it's a wonderful, wonderful way of life, and I'm excited to be able to have the opportunity to tell you about it. Remember that I told you that when we use this form of meditation, we have a vertical motion. What we're simply saying by that is that the mind and the body will naturally gravitate to the most comfortable level of awareness. And the most comfortable level of awareness is always the soul. So that's what this helps us do. And it's really a spiritual journey. It's a lot like coming home. It's the safest place that you can be. And there are many benefits to this practice, just many benefits. Only one we'll talk about, there are lots of them, but we'll talk about just one here for a moment, would be the release of stress. Remember how I said when you do this, you relax, that releases a little stress, and then you go back to your mantra and you relax some more and you release some more stress. This is very important. When I was here before, we talked a little bit about the body and the energy body, the physical body and the energy body. And I'd like to just spend a moment on that now because it relates very much to what we're talking about here. In the physical body, we have approximately 13 major systems. What are some of those systems?
Circulatory, respiratory, lymphatic, immune.
Good, you read the book. Thank you. So we have all of those systems. But there is an energy body that supports and sustains the physical mechanism. How many of you have heard of the energy body? Okay. You work with the energy body in your massage therapy and in some of the other things you do. How many of you have heard of chakras? Okay. The chakras are part of your energy system. Okay? It would be like the invisible network. You can see where your blood vessels are, and you can feel where your glands are. You can feel where that muscular system is. You can feel where the bones are. But you have this subtle energy body that is supporting and sustaining it. So that if we were to use, for example, an ocean wave, this would be the physical body, but there's all that energy of the ocean that's supporting and sustaining the wave. Okay? Are you tracking with me? So we have in this energy body that is supporting and sustaining our physical body, there are 72,000 channels or circuits And those channels or circuits are called nadis, N-A-D-I-S. So instead of 13 systems, we have 72,000 conduits. And on those pictures that you saw when I was here before, all those little fibrous, remember how it was a kind of crackly-like looking? Okay, those are the nadis. Those are the nadis that support and sustain the physical body. And what happens then is that those energy conduits funnel into the chakras. They funnel into the chakras, and from the chakras, each chakra is connected to a major nerve plexus in the spine, as well as an important endocrine gland. So that energy funnels into the chakras, into the spine, into the endocrine gland, and from there into the nervous system, and from there into the body. So we have this constant flow of energy and information that's coming into our system. Now, what happens when we have more stress than we can comfortably handle, and if you can't see this in the back, tell me, and I'll make room for it up above. We're going to say that this is part of that 72,000 channel network. Can you see that, everybody? Okay, it's just like a grid, isn't it? When we don't process fats adequately or appropriately in the physical body, what happens? What plugs up? Right. When there's more stress than we can process and clear out of our energy system, out of our whole system, it leaves a deposit similar to ash in that energy network. So what are some of the stresses that we have to work with that confront us in life? Anybody? Can't hear? School. Okay, so there's school. What else? Children, and what was that?
Echo. It was an echo.
Oh, okay. I hear people sometimes talk about financial concerns. Traffic, right, okay. Maybe not enough rest. And meals, right. Okay. I have someone right now who is in the throes of grief, and she's totally overwhelmed, okay? So that would be a really, really, really big stress, wouldn't it? Okay?
Moving.
Pardon me? Moving, okay, yeah, that's difficult. So what do you suppose happens when we end up with all these deposits in that energy network? It interferes with the communication between this pattern and the physical system. When something interferes with the signal, when something interferes with the signal of your cell phone, what happens? Static. Or your television. It's like snow in the picture, right? Okay. So when the body can't get those signals clearly, that's where many diseases begin. And this is why Deepak felt it was so important to have meditation as the core of all of these programs that he was developing for people with heart disease and all these different problems. Because when we meditate, we start to remember our essential wholeness, and we start clearing out the stress. So I've just meditated and I got rid of some of that. And then this evening, I meditated again. And if I keep doing that each day, pretty soon, those cells are going to start waking up. And when the cell starts waking up, the body starts waking up. This body starts getting the signal. And pretty soon, you start feeling better. I know personally some people who have experienced what we would call miraculous healings, just simply, we say simply, from doing the meditation practice. Some amazing stories, and not just healing, but of the physical body, but healing of relationships, and it's just amazing because it brings balance into every area of your life. into your relationships, into your ability to deal with stresses, and so on. Our cells are like little broadcasting stations, and they're picking up on all those signals. This is an electrical network. It's an energy system, and it's constantly flowing and constantly moving. A continuous feedback loop would be another way to put it, a continuous feedback loop. Have any of you heard of Ayurveda? All right, good. Ayurveda. Does somebody want to tell me what Ayurveda is? Pardon me? All right. Yes, but where does it come from? India. Right. It comes from India. And so they have known for a long time that many diseases begin where the disruption of this signal occurs. And they have also found that there are specific signals that you can insert into that feedback loop to help restore the communication. So what you're doing is you are using a vibration to cure a vibration. You're using a vibration to cure a vibration, and that's done through the primordial sound. All right, here we are. We're at a very important word. Let's talk about primordial, because that's the name of this practice, is primordial sound meditation. Primordial would be pre-linguistic, before language, before manifestation even. So what are primordial sounds that we hear all the time? They're like the sounds of nature. A primordial sound is there's only one way to say it. You don't, for instance, what am I hearing? Traffic. Right. And that doesn't happen in French or Spanish or English. It just is, right? Sounds of nature are like that. What would be some of those? Water. Right. Others? What others? Rain, right? Wind. Good. Okay, good. What about human sounds? I just heard one over there. Coughing. What else? Laughing, crying. Those are all primordial sounds, okay? But the sounds that we're talking about are the sounds that the cosmos was making. It's part of the music, part of the harmony of the cosmos. And that harmony is in you because that's your essential vibration. That's your essential vibration. And actually, in a state of deep meditation, you can hear that. It's the hum that your body makes, the hum that your cells make, that your glands make. There is a specific sound. Every organ has its own sound, so your body is like a symphony of sound, actually. But that composite sound is your unique sound. Just like you have your own unique heart rate, your own unique pulse, your own unique breathing patterns. You have your own unique vibration. And when we put this primordial sound back into the loop, what we're doing is we're just reminding our system of what station it should be tuned into. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Isn't that exciting? I think it is anyway. More than that, it brings you into a very deep level of rest, even deeper than deep sleep. And of course, we still need to sleep. But when we sleep, we are releasing physical stress. And when we dream, we're releasing mental and emotional stress. But when you meditate, you're releasing stress at every level. At every level. In fact, I like to call it my spiritual vacuum cleaner, because it's really like a deep cleaning system. It goes in there and gets rid of that stuff and helps you feel better and helps you function better So what we're talking about really is just remembering. This is a way to help you remember your essential nature, remembering who you are. You've just been wonderful to listen to me. You've been paying really good attention. Now what I'd like you to do is to just pay attention to who is listening. Instead of just listening to me, think about who it is that's listening. You might want to just close your eyes for a minute and just listen. Just be very still and just listen. And instead of engaging with whatever you hear, just be aware of the fact that you're hearing it. Now, as you're listening, just shift your attention to who it is that's listening. I'd like to know if you would be willing to just tell me what that was like.
Peaceful.
Peaceful, okay.
Relaxing.
Relaxing, okay.
My heart
Could hear your heartbeat.
in my head or like
Good for you.
I feel more alert.
Alert, that's a good one. Let me ask you, was there any fear? Was there any anxiety? Okay. What about stress? Did you feel stressed? Okay. This is you.
Can I ask you what you meant by concentrate on who it is you're listening?
Just pay attention to the fact that you're listening so that you become aware of yourself as the listener. As the listener. So often our focus is out there instead of in here. So that's a good question. Does that help? Of the fact that you are actually listening, of there's a difference between listening and being the listener.
I guess this is more complicated than what I do, but I don't go through all that. But
Well, this is a way of explaining the process. That doesn't mean that you have to do this when you meditate. I just want you to become aware of yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the reason that we do that, is to help you become aware of yourself. We think of ourselves so often as human doings. We're doing all the time. Busy, busy, busy. But we aren't human doings, we're human beings. And we forget to give ourselves the time or the opportunity to just be. Okay? So that's what this is about. When you meditate, you just are. You move into a state of awareness where you are simply being. And doing isn't in the picture. Neither is trying. And that brings up something that I've been thinking about since I was here this last time, because you don't try when you meditate. You don't want, we're so work-oriented. The harder we do it, the better it's going to be. But you can't do that with meditation. Meditation is about relaxed allowing. Just allowing yourself to settle into the silence and into the peace. That's what it's about, is relaxed allowing. When you give someone, some of you are already doing massages, okay. When you give someone a massage, when is it the best? When you're just trying really hard, or when you're letting go and just letting it come? Yeah, just letting it happen. And that's what we have to do with meditation too. We just have to let it happen. And whatever it is for you at that time is what it needed to be at that time. And no two of them are going to be the same. Absolutely, no two of them are going to be the same. Someone said that they fell asleep when they meditated. Well, that's one of the three things that can happen. Because if you need the rest, given the opportunity, your body's going to do what it needs the most. it will take the chance to get some sleep, get some rest. And of course, if that happens a lot, then we need to find out, why am I falling asleep all the time? Maybe a person isn't well, or maybe they're just working too hard, or burning the candle at both ends, or under a lot of stress. Lots of reasons, but if you're falling asleep a lot when you try to meditate, then we need to find out why. If it just happens occasionally, just know that that's part of the process. The second thing that will happen is you'll have lots of, who knows? Yes, lots of thoughts. And you know what? That's part of the process. One of the forms of meditation that I was trying to learn said, you mustn't have any thoughts. Oh, no. So here I am going, no thoughts, no thoughts, no thoughts. Well, those are thoughts. Those are thoughts, aren't they? Okay. So thoughts are part of the process. And remember how we said you go this way, you have a thought, and then you relax, you have a thought, you relax, you have a thought? That's part of the process. It's part of the release of the stress. So when you have a thought, just be aware that you had a thought. Like a car going by. I haven't jumped in the car and gone off with it. I didn't engage with the car. You don't engage with the thought. You just say, oh, must have released some stress, and you go back to your mantras. So thoughts are okay. They're not the goal, but they are part of the path. It's what you have to get. You have to have enough rest and get to the point where your stress level is low enough that you can finally move into the silence. And when you move into the silence, we call that slipping into the gap. And the reason that we call it the gap is because that's just another word for the silence. Our thoughts are usually like this, aren't they? Mind is really, really busy. But when you start to meditate, thoughts get further and further apart. Well, there's the silence in that gap between your thoughts. There's the silence again. You hear the silence? In between what I'm saying? In between your thoughts? That's it. That's the silence. But there are levels of awareness of that silence where you can actually immerse yourself in it, and all this other stuff disappears, and that's called bliss. And the soul is constantly in a state of bliss. Okay? I think what I'd like us to do right now, would you be willing to just do a short meditation? Okay. Like maybe 5 or 10 minutes? Okay. Let's just try it. And of course, I can't give you your primordial sound, but I think what you can, breath meditation, some of you mentioned the breath and working with the breath, but I think what I'm going to do is give you a Sanskrit mantra that you can use, and it is simply the sound of the breath. So, hum. Okay? That's the, so would be the in breath, the inhalation. Hum would be the exhalation. Or if you would prefer, I'll give you a choice, and you just pick, because there's no wrong way to do it. If you would prefer, you can just quietly in your mind think, ah, hum. And that means I am. Okay? So let's just close our eyes, get really comfortable, feet on the floor if you can, everything off your lap. And just take a deep breath and breathe in peace. And on the exhale, just let go of all your cares and concerns. Let's breathe in again. Breathe in light this time. And as you exhale, see that light going through every part of your body. And now we're going to breathe in love. And as we do, we're going to see it extending beyond our body, through that energy body, and out into the cosmos. And then we're just going to relax and settle into the silence of our soul. And if you hear a sound or if you have a thought, just simply bring your attention back to whichever mantra you have chosen. And just think the mantra ever so easily, ever so gently. The mantra is not the goal. It is just simply a tool that's going to help us reach the silence. So become more and more aware of the silence in between the mantra. And I'll keep track of the time and let you know when it's time to finish. Now just stop thinking your mantra and sit quietly for a moment. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Okay, how was that for you? Good, good. In spite of all the traffic, huh?
Yeah.
All right, well, you can do this anywhere. One of the best places to do it is on an airplane because it takes you out of time and space, and then you don't have the problem with jet lag so much.
How does this differ from your mother's heartbeat when you were in the door?
How does it differ?
Yeah, you said your sound, your own personal sound.
All right, that would be a pulsation, the rhythmic pulsation that's keeping your system functioning, okay? This is the vibration that's behind everything. Everything at its basic level, it's a really good question. Everything at its basic level is energy. Whether it's the chair you're sitting on or the body that you're using or the paper that I'm holding, at its basic intrinsic level, it's energy, and that energy is intelligent. And when energy moves, it vibrates. It vibrates, and that's the vibration that is sustaining the form that you are using. Okay? Does that answer your question? There are lots of different sounds. Remember, I told you that each organ has its own sound, and of course the heart makes a sound too. And your mother's heartbeat is it's the sound of universal love, of unconditional love. As your body is being formed, that's pumping love into that fetus all the time that it's growing inside her. But that whole system, your mother, the fetus, the heartbeat, everything, at its basic level is still energy and vibration. Okay? So there's that difference. Right. Did you feel that it helped you go to a more settled state? Okay. And of course, the more you work with it, the greater difference you will see. Your mantra is really like a road map. It knows where to go and it knows what to do. And what it does is the mantra is a thought also. The mantra is a thought, but because of its unique properties, it tends to cancel out the other thoughts. And pretty soon your mantra falls away and your thoughts fall away, and what's left is that peaceful silence. So that pretty much winds it up. This is a well-worn path. It's been used for thousands of years. We're talking a lot about 8 to 10,000 years that we know of. And of course, when something has been used for that long, it leaves what I like to call an energy trail. If I were going to go to Los Angeles from here and I started walking, it would take a long time. It would be faster if I got in my car, but if I got on an airplane, it would be even faster. And that's what this mantra is like. Because these have been used for so long, for thousands and thousands of years, they just naturally help you move into the silence of your soul. Do we have any questions?
How would I find out what my mantra is?
When you fill out the registration form and send it to me with your deposit for the course, then I send that information to the Chopra Center, and they have a program that will take that information and use Vedic mathematics to determine what sound the universe was making at that time and that place when you were born.
So the sound of the universe makes when you're born, but is it like, does it change like every day or it's just every second?
No, it's your sound, and it's always your sound. That's your specific vibration.
We all have different.
Right. It's kind of like the tonic. Do you know anything about music? The tonic being the sound on which a scale is constructed, and so this would be your tonic sound, your root sound. It's the sound that supports and sustains the physical mechanism as well as that energy field. Anybody else?
In the exercise that just happened, it was silent, but you keep talking about using sounds. Do you chant the sounds, or?
You think it silently. During your instruction, I was going to tell you, how much time do we have left? 5 minutes, okay. The course itself is taught in 4 sessions, and the first session is about meditation, kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. Some of that we've talked about today. The second session is your personal instruction. That's when you receive your mantra, and I give it to you in the spoken form, and so that you can learn to say it and so that you can get comfortable with it. And then you gradually take it into the silence. Once you take it into the silence, you don't ever say it out loud again, because it is a vibration. It's not intended to be a piece of conversation. Just like I don't particularly care to know what your heart rate is. You know, we don't go around saying, what's your heart rate? That's just part of you, and so is your vibration. You take it inside and let it do its special work. So personal instruction is the second session. Then the third session has to do with what to do and not to do so that you can enhance your meditation. And then the fourth session is about the higher states of consciousness that you can expect to move into. Higher states, or we could even say deeper levels of awareness as you practice this. So it's very comprehensive. It's between 7 and 8 hours of training. Well, you just have been wonderful. Thank you so much.